Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, it's time for another It's the Bread story. Several weeks ago, I had the privilege of sharing at a women's brunch at Calvary Chapel, Chattanooga. While there, I met so many wonderful people, and after the event, I learned of the unexpected connection of the lives of several people to one of my previous guests on Sue's Healthy Minutes, Sarah Valentine. Sarah shared her story in episode 68. If you haven't heard it, I encourage you to listen to it. It's amazing. But it was her brother, Tyler Golson, who first introduced Sarah to Real Bread. I met Tyler's wife, Bet, at the brunch in Chattanooga. Tyler recently joined me on Sue's Healthy Minutes as well in episode 82 to share his It's the Bread story. Well, today's guest, Becca Pouliot, is just one of the many people Tyler told about the amazing benefits of real bread. I had the pleasure of meeting and having dinner with Becca in Chattanooga the night before the event and heard enough of her story that I knew she needed to share it with all of you listening to Sue's Healthy Minutes. So today, I welcome Becca Pouliot. Becca, thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with me. I'm excited to hear even more of your story, and I know you have a lot to share. But why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself and your health journey?
Thank you so much for having me, Sue. It's such an honor to be speaking with you. I really enjoyed having dinner with you.
It was a great night.
Yes. So learning about real bread, it's been really a life-changing journey for me. A small backstory, I really wasn't a health-conscious person until about 15 years ago. I grew up and was kind of living with a standard American diet. But my husband and I, we started going through just repeat miscarriages and infertility. It was a battle we had for 4 years. And I just started wondering if there was something about diet that needed to change. It was kind of the first time I'd really wondered if they were connected. So we learned about GMOs. We started eating clean. We started eating organic, and we were able to welcome 3 children. I have a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and then a 3-year-old little caboose. So we've been eating real food over the past, like I said, 10, 15 years. And I've still really struggled with my reproductive health. So it forced me to start kind of diving into a lot of these trendy diets. I think I've been everything from vegan to keto. We did Whole30, paleo. I mean, you can pretty much name it, and I've tried it kind of in this pursuit of health.
Yeah.
So the hard part, though, I mean, none of those diets are sustainable. You're cutting out major food groups, whether it's meat, whether it's dairy, whether it's grains. After a month, I think you're tired of eating the same things.
Yes.
At least I was. I mean, and I felt pretty good on all of those diets, and they're all drastically different. So it didn't make sense to me how
the best.
Yes, exactly. And I always had this question too, kind of in the back of my mind, like, if Jesus said he's the bread of life, why is bread so bad for you?
I know. A lot of Christians, they're like, there's something wrong with this picture. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I didn't really know where to look for that answer. I just figured that, food's changed, the soil's changed. So we're kind of forced to live in this restricted, disordered way of eating if we really want to have true health.
Yeah.
Right now. So if you kind of go back to August 2022, so last year, I decided to jump on this animal-based carnivore diet. But this time I was going to take my whole family with me. So for a month, we ate grass-fed red meat, a lot of it raw dairy. We did fruit and local honey and pastured eggs. So again, not bad foods, but really a restricted way of eating. And our health just tanked. Like after a month of eating that way, my husband, he had such bad, like chronic asthmatic bronchitis that the doctor was thinking he had a red meat allergy.
Really?
Yes, because we didn't know why he couldn't get better. And the only thing that had changed is like we did this really intense, like red meat diet for a month.
Yeah, but it was all clean. It was good.
Yes, it was good. But my youngest daughter, her constipation was always kind of difficult, but it started becoming like really painful. And now I know it was lack of fiber in her diet. So that was difficult. And so it was the sickest winter we had. Like we had multiple rounds of strep throat. We had tonsillitis, stomach. I mean, we were catching everything. Like that winter was so bad after we did that carnivore kind of experience. So as a mom, I mean, I take personal responsibility for the health of my family. So I was just dealing with like, man, I just made a huge mistake that's affecting everyone.
Yeah.
So I decided in January I was going to do this 3-day fast. Because I needed help from God. I always need help from God, but I really needed some answers because I was, once again, going back to like, well, maybe we shouldn't eat meat. If my husband is, allergic, I don't know. So I did this 3-day fast and, just asked God to answer and show me the way. And I was reading in Nehemiah 3 and the phrase make repairs stood out. It's 31 times in Nehemiah 3. It says make repairs.
Yeah.
So I kind of just took that as like, all right, that's the phrase and God's going to show me what that means. I figured it has something to do with our guts and microbiome, but I just wasn't sure practically what that looked like. And it just so happened that week we were having dinner with a couple of friends at a dinner party, and Bet and Tyler Golson were there at the party. And so Bet starts telling me about Real Bread and bread Beckers and this journey they're on. And you've talked to both Tyler and Bet, and they're very excited, and they can convince me to do anything probably. So I got intrigued for sure because I had never heard anyone talk about grain and bread being good for you. In all I'd read Grain Brain, I'd read Wheat Belly, I've read all these books. I was programmed to think this is so unusual. So that weekend we were in Woodstock for a soccer tournament. So we just happened that weekend after talking to them, we were in Woodstock. So we make time, we go to Bread Becker's, we walk in and I'm like, this is nuts. I don't know what we're doing here. And we meet David, who was awesome. He took 30 minutes with us probably and told us about like the history of grain, the benefits, all that. And by the time he was done talking, I literally had tears in my eyes.
Oh, wow.
Because, I knew that this was the answer. Like God had answered me clearly and quickly. So we got all the stuff. We got the meal. We got the wheat. We come home and I marked the date. It was February 13th that we made our first loaf of bread. And we did it all together as a family, and we sat down at the table and we cut into it. And we wrote down each of our ailments that were kind of like we hoped that bread would help heal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So from that first day of eating that first piece of bread, my little daughter has not struggled with constipation at all. It was healed immediately.
Wow.
To the point. Yeah. she has joy going to the bathroom now. It's like 6 months later and she still celebrates like, Mom, come and look. But as a mom,
isn't that amazing?
It really is.
That was something that was bringing her down, not just physically, but emotionally. That's a scary thing for a child when it hurts and is painful and your stomach. And just bread the first day. Wow.
Yeah, first day. I mean, there's been no looking back on that. I mean, we haven't had any problems. And then so my oldest daughter, she had a plantar's wart, painful on the bottom of her foot. She'd had it for months. We'd had it frozen off. That didn't work. And so, I mean, she's a soccer player. She's an athlete. She puts a lot of stress on that. So it was bothering her. So from that first day, February 13th, over the next week, we literally watched the wart peel off, flake off, and disappear. And every day she'd wake up, she'd like, Mom, look, it's less today. It's less today. So then it's gone. That really painful thing for her is gone in a week from starting to eat the bread.
God, it's so good. Oh.
Yes. So I'm seeing these things happen quickly, and it just is making me think like, God is so good. He answers us when we ask him, and he shows us the way. And so here I am for 10, 15 years having this question of like, why do you say you're the bread of life, Jesus? And why can't I eat bread? And then he just answers and shows me. And of course, I'm diving in now and listening to all your podcasts, listening to your teachings, reading, all the information I can about vitamin E and the cells. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely 100% truth, which is something with all of these other diets. The carnivore diet, Paul Saladino, the author, he's a huge evolutionist. His whole diet is based on evolution, that we have evolved to eat meat and not plants. So it always just struck me wrong because your foundation has to be true from the start.
Yeah.
So to see like this real bread and, fresh grain and how it's biblically based. And I mean, there's a freedom that I feel like is one of the health benefits that I've experienced, even above physical, but the mental release of like this journey of searching for like the health of my family, I feel like has ended in the truth that's rooted in God's word.
Yes, you mentioned that freedom. That's one thing God has really put on my heart, that I see people, they're struggling, but then they're trying all these things, and it's not freedom at all. It's, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat this. And I met a lady there at Chattanooga, and her words just struck me right down to the core of my being. She, with tears after I spoke, she said, I've been praying that God would give me food freedom. And I just, that's powerful. It's powerful.
It is. Yes.
Because like you said, it's not just physical, it's spiritual, it's mental, it's emotional, the bondage that we find ourselves in. And you hit on something, these diets, especially carnivore, paleo, keto, those are all evolution based. I mean, the founder of paleo diet says without evolution, there's no explanation of, our bodies. And that's not true. So, wow. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. Yeah, my husband, so this chronic asthmatic bronchitis, we have found that with eating the bread, he has not had to use his inhaler in months. So, and he's not he was up all night coughing, and it was a very difficult, but as soon as we introduced real bread into the diet, like he significantly started getting better to where we feel like he's healed now, so once again, I go back to, and you talk about it so much, the fiber and the good gut bacteria that you get from, eating these whole grains, eating these fresh grains. It builds your gut, which is, we're learning, it's like your second brain, and it's where your immune system is. So.
Yeah. And this is very significant. This is something that I read about these high meat diets. They really change the microbiome in your gut, and not for the better. So that's interesting that you saw such a change, or he saw such a change in his immune system. That's significant.
Yeah. It was night and day, and it happened quickly. And he's a healthy guy. He works out, you know, he's probably a healthier eater than I am. I still have a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
So, you know, for him to see such a drastic result, that's why we were thinking, I mean, is it an allergy? Did he get, I mean, there's that tick illness that you can't eat meat. You don't really know it, but,
Right.
So we were kind of, because it was such a drastic change. But yeah, I mean, he's good. Like he's running now. He works out. He's back to his, he is the worship leader at our church. So he sings for a living. And so, you know, with asthma and bronchitis, I mean, it was affecting every part of his life. So, I mean, again, another testimony to real food, that have vitamins and minerals and gut bacteria. And yeah, and my son as well, he's 8. He's the one that struggles with his tonsils. They're enlarged. They always have been. And so he's kind of developed over the years just sleep apnea. That kind of led to a hyperactivity. He was having a really hard time concentrating. So we took him in, and the ear, nose, and throat doctor was saying that he should have his tonsils out. And I just did what any mom would do. I started doing research about your tonsils are, you know, part of your immune system. They're the first defender for you. So I didn't want to take the decision lightly, but I also did. I mean, he was on 3 rounds of antibiotics in a month because he couldn't get rid of the strep throat. So, you know, I'm trying to weigh like all of these, they're heavy decisions.
Yeah. And he's only 8 years old. Yeah.
Yes. So I held off. You know, we decided not to do it. And so we introduced the real bread. And so far, I have noticed his tonsils are still large, but the snoring is not like old man snoring anymore. I don't see the sleep apnea. It's more of a heavy breathing, which has led him to getting more restorative rest, and his hyperactivity now he's just like a normal, energetic 8-year-old. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he can concentrate on his schoolwork. He can, I mean, he still gets up, and we homeschool, and he takes a lot of breaks to do push-ups or jumping jacks to get energy out, but he can focus. And moms know the difference. Like
yes.
when you see your kid literally can't focus because their brain is too sped up. So we are not pursuing a tonsillectomy at this time. We feel like as he continues to eat healthy and build his gut back from being on all the antibiotics and stuff, that, I mean, I believe that he will be able to keep his tonsils. So
did I share the tonsil story? And you weren't at the luncheon. You had to go out of town. Have you heard the tonsil story?
I haven't heard the tonsil story, but please share.
Oh, yes. Well, that is one thing that when I took my 4-year-old in for a checkup to Dr. Denmark, she passed away now, but at the time she was the oldest practicing pediatrician. I think she was 105 when I took my daughter.
Wow.
And she explained to me, and she said to me, and of course, Lydia had been conceived and born on the bread, and she was 4 years old, took her in, and she said, her tonsils have atrophied. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, you know, you're born without an immune system. When a baby's born, their tonsils are their first line of defense. But around 6 months old, as your immune system gets stronger and stronger, your tonsils should atrophy and go away. And she looked at me that day and she said, I've never seen a child this young whose tonsils have atrophied. And,
wow.
And then some years later, I took all my kids in because they were going to camp and they needed a checkup. And she said, none of your children, their tonsils have atrophied. I don't want to say they're not there. She kind of said they don't have their tonsils. You have them. They're still there.
Yes.
But they've atrophied because they're not needed, because your immune system is strong and doing what it's supposed to do. Now, they can get inflamed if they are needed. But so that, I think that was a good call to try not to have his tonsils removed. And I have a feeling you're going to have a tonsil story. So that's been my kid story.
Yes.
I share that in my talk. And then a few years ago, I had to go to an ENT because I couldn't hear out of one ear. And I laugh and say, evidently the bread doesn't help your earwax go, get rid of your earwax. And it must be a genetic thing, but mine build up. And so I had to go get it irrigated. And it was so funny. The nurse was doing my blood pressure, my, checking my throat. And when she looked in my throat, she went, And I said, what? And she said, have you had your tonsils removed? And I said, no. Now, mind you, when I was a senior in high school, they wanted to take my tonsils out. They were so inflamed. And I said, no, why? And she said, well, I can't really see them, but I can see that they're there, but they're not there. And I said, yes, I have my own tonsil story. So like your son, I used to get strep throat multiple times a year before bread. And then after bread, all of that changed for me too. So I have a feeling he's going to have a tonsil story before this is all over.
Yes, that would be so amazing.
So, yeah, that they're just going to atrophy as his immune system and his gut health gets built back up.
Yes. I mean, I really am amazed at the body's ability to heal itself when you give it the correct medicine as far as food. And I'm thankful how God is an intelligent designer that way. And he gives us so many resources through his creation and all that he's made to live a healthy life. It takes work to do it because you have to fight against the convenience of food today.
Yes, that's right. And that's why it's where it is. That's why we're where we are as a nation, is that the convenience of it all. I just watched an episode of Foods That Built America on the white bread, and it's in season 3. I can't remember what episode number is, but it was fascinating. And it was exactly what I shared about, is that people wanted easy. They were tired. And we have to come back to it. But unfortunately, today there's so much conflicting diets, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is good. It's just not correct information. And like you, I'm like, why would Jesus compare himself to something that's bad? So Now, how about you? You've shared your husband, your kids. Great.
I think I am definitely moving in the right direction. I think my kind of, like I said, the food freedom mentally has been a huge victory. And then physically, I am moving in the right direction as far as without going into too many details, I'm seeing results for sure. As far as my own things that plague women that used to kind of debilitate me, they're less and less every month. As far as just I'm feeling more in control of hormone. I mean, I'm also going to be 40 next year. I heard that things happen when you're 40 in a woman. Like, I'm scared. I don't know. So, with the hormones and as a mom, and, you go through childbirth and you go through nursing and, all those things. I think I have a longer healing journey probably than the other people in my family, but I am seeing healing and improvements for sure. So I'm excited to I think we've been eating real bread for about 6 months now.
Yeah.
And I know there are ways that we can even incorporate it more. I'm just now kind of getting into tortillas and pita bread. And I've been slowly learning, we have muffins down now. We have pancakes and waffles. I do Ezekiel bread often. I'm still doing sourdough.
Yes.
But then there are meals where, like, we love Mediterranean food and like Mexican food. And so sometimes I'll cheat and I'm like, okay, well, I want to have, Mediterranean food tonight, but I didn't make any pita. So let me go grab some. I'm now to the point where I feel comfortable making it. I'm going to start trying to go even further in my bread journey, if that makes sense.
No. And I think that's what I saw, not just in the bread journey, but, like you, our family ate pretty real, maybe not the extremes. I mean, we didn't, go on different diets, but we ate real food. But when the bread changed everything, it was like, okay, what else can I improve on? Where else can, and we went to raw milk and, or yogurt than we were eating, and smoothies and tortillas and pita. And so I wanted to take the next step. And I think that's what excites me so much is when the bread makes such a difference, you want to go, okay, how else can I clean up the rest of my diet and the food that I'm feeding myself and my family? I think that's one of the exciting things for me about the bread. You feel so good. You're like, okay, what else can I do better?
Yes. I mean, we've replaced all snacks, which I stopped kind of buying snacks a while back because I realized most of them were processed. They cost a lot of money and they didn't fill my kids up. They could sit there and go through a whole box of whatever fig bar or whatever, and they're still just as hungry as before they started eating it. So, I was slowly trying to replace it with, almonds or cheese or whatever. But for a kid to be able to, now they come and they grab a muffin or, and they don't ever, I mean, they may eat 2 muffins because they're delicious, but they're full after. It's not this I'm not satisfied, so I need to keep eating.
Right.
So that's real. I mean, from a budget standpoint, there's a startup cost to making your own bread. That's what I tell everyone. But we're saving money. Now that we're into it, we're saving a lot of money, actually.
That's what I do. I mean, between the bread, they quit snacking. I mean, when you have this many kids, I homeschooled as well. It was before bread, as soon as breakfast was over and everybody did their chores, they'd be back in here looking for something to snack on. And then after bread, they just didn't snack because they were filled and they were satisfied. And they even commented on other families going, oh my, they eat all the time. They're constantly snacking. And it didn't fill them up. They would be right back in there. They could eat a whole bag or something. So between the bread and I always kept fresh fruit around, if they wanted something, they would get an apple or a banana if they wanted something. Most of the time, they didn't snack. And that, you're right. Snacks are expensive and they don't satisfy and they don't fill you up. So you can eat the whole thing and still want more.
Yes, for sure. I mean, that's why it's so easy to sit down and eat a whole bag of chips.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's nothing. Nothing. Yeah.
There's nothing there to fill you up or satisfy you, really. The salt, maybe. But anyway, it's just, wow, this is such a great story. And I think that, like you started studying is what's in this bread? What's in whole grains? The fiber, the vitamin E, the B vitamins, all of those things. Honestly, I am as excited today as I was 31 years ago when I started. And there's not many things that you can say that about, that you just stay there. And when I hear people's stories, it makes me look into whole grains even more and go, okay, what's in here that could help this and that did this? And I find that it's there. Just about everything body needs is in whole grains and beans. I put beans together with bread, because it's a seed. And they are indeed the most nutrient dense food God has given us. Well, I'm just so excited that you shared today. And I know that there's all these fad diets out there that you tried. And what excites you the most, besides the health benefits of this more simple way of eating? Is it because it's more simple?
I mean, I do love the simplicity of it. There are where for dinner, we love pasta. So that's probably been our favorite thing to make together as a family. And especially now that it's summertime, we'll make a Ezekiel mix pasta.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll just throw, basil, olive oil, lemon, some Parmesan shredded on top. And that's our dinner. And we're all full and satisfied. And it's cost efficient and it's simple. And we had fun together making it.
Wow.
And you're creating. So I think, what makes me so excited is it's really, our whole family is involved in it.
Yeah.
It's taken me cooking and it's in the kitchen, which could be my kids have always enjoyed helping in the kitchen, but my oldest daughter was there when David was talking to us about, and she came home and told all her friends. And we kind of coined a Monday wake and bake term for Mondays, because we would get up and we bake. We make what we need for the week. Now that it's fall, where everything has pumpkin in it, we made a huge batch of pumpkin waffles, and they can just go in the freezer and pull it out. So they've kind of taken control of their own nutrition and food throughout the day, because they know that they can go in, and it's helped me, because in the morning I'm trying to get ready for school. I don't always want to take the time to prepare a big breakfast, but with real bread, we can have prepared things that they can pull out and put in the toaster. Or so yes, the simplicity, it excites me, but then also I really feel a lot of empowerment as a mom to be able to teach these really healthy habits to my kids. And as they grow up in that environment of real food, real bread, I mean, it's a gift that we're giving them that's going to last them the rest of their life, that they're not going to have to search for, right. They know. Right. So there's a lot of things I'm excited about. I love telling other people about it, and everyone is literally so hungry literally hungry that, they're jumping in. I mean, Tyler said the same thing when he was on the podcast, and you were at Calvary, our community at our church. I mean, there are multiple people now who have meals, and we're making our own bread, and there are stories popping in and out of things that are happening. And so it's life-giving, just like Jesus is. It's like he's life-giving. It is. He leads you in freedom and simplicity. And so now I know why Jesus said he was the bread of life.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing. Well, as we close out, what final words of encouragement would you like to leave our listeners with today?
I would say, don't be intimidated by making bread. Just get the meal and get the wheat, and you can get started. Like I said, we started out very simple with batter breads, pancakes, muffins, things that don't require so much love and attention, because we do not have a bread maker. I know a lot of people who have a bread maker, and I think that that's a very easy way to make bread, right? Yes. Like loaf bread. I think it'll probably be on my Christmas list. But to get started, we just got I knew I could make bread with my hands if I needed to. But these batter breads are a great way to get started. So even if you have zero cooking experience, you can mix ingredients together and put it in a muffin pan. Yes.
Yes. So, pancakes, waffles, coffee cake, those are stir up with a wire whisk and a bowl, and bake in 15 to 30 minutes. So those are easy. And I love my muffin recipe. It is very adaptable. You can do most anything, whether it's pumpkin and a blueberry. One of my favorites recently was raspberry and chocolate chip, and that was more like a cupcake. And
that's delicious.
One time and used freshly ground corn and made a corn muffin that was savory, not sweet at all. And that was our dinner bread. So
yes. I just experimented with corn for the first time and made grits, and they were fantastic.
They are. And that's the other thing I was going to say. Another thing that people don't realize is, like, you're doing the pasta, and somebody might go, oh, I can't make pasta. Boil grain. Boil grain and do just what you're doing to the pasta. Add olive oil, lemon juice, herbs, chopped onions, bell pepper, whatever. Yes. They are delicious, and that is a very Mediterranean way of eating. You tell a Greek or someone from the Mediterranean area, they say if they have pasta or whole grain, olive oil and vinegar or lemon juice or whatever, and so that they can have a meal. It does.
Oh, yeah, totally. And that is often what our weeks look like. We do very simple whole grain based dishes. And it's quick for the most part, to throw those things together. It's cost effective and it's delicious, and you're satisfied. We don't reach for nighttime snacks. Like, we have our dinner and we're done eating for the day.
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. I think everyone is going to be encouraged that hears your testimony of all the ways that Real Bread helped your family find food freedom. Really, you did, because you had tried all sorts of
We did. We found freedom. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're so welcome. And we're going to have you again. You're going to share about how you have incorporated not only this into your way of eating, but into homeschooling and teaching your children. So I look forward to that episode. But
yes, me too.
Yes. But as always, I want to thank everyone for listening today. And until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes. Thank you, Becca.
Thank you.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.